like to start the morning by saying peace and blessings to everyone. Good morning. I am Bobby Norfolk, and Sherry Norfolk is to my right, to your left, and we bring you greetings from the United States of America by way of two cities, St. Louis, Missouri, and Atlanta, Georgia. We spend time in both cities performing, but when we are not in Atlanta, Georgia, and St. Louis, Missouri, we are in places like Bangkok, Thailand. And I had no idea for myself that I would ever be a storyteller nor a public performer, because from the age of 4 all the way to the age of 16, I used to stutter. I stuttered terribly. Every time I opened my mouth, I would stutter. So it embarrassed me. Children made fun of me. Children can take no prisoners sometimes. So I was so embarrassed by being a stutterer, I retreated into books. I thought if I had a book in my face, no one would ask me to talk. Wrong. I had master teachers in the St. Louis public school system where I grew up in the Midwest of the United States. They saw things in me I did not see in myself. And that is the key to a master teacher, to look inside a student that does not have self-esteem or self-worth, and then to find that gem of genius or creativity. And so these master teachers put me in drama class, glee club, choral, talent shows, forensics. Whenever I performed on stage, would not stutter. Left stage, came back, retreated into books. So therefore the library became my sanctuary. Little did I know that while in the library in my youth, I was setting the stage for future events. Some of those future events are taking place right now as I speak. Because I increased my vocabulary, I was increasing my world knowledge, and finally, after long years of being in theater and in public speaking classes, the stuttering stopped. One thing that helped, along with the master teachers, was learning about transcendental meditation. With the meditation and the yoga and the performing, the stuttering stopped. Have no idea where it went, and I don't care. It was just gone, which set me on the stage now as I speak to you. And I have the utmost of respect for librarians and teachers. Which brings me to my question to you, the audience. And I need a show of hands of how many librarians are in the house this morning. How many librarians out there? You can put your hands down. How many teachers of young students, primary? Okay. How many students, teachers of students who are older than primary, secondary teachers? How many storytellers are in the house? Every hand in this room should be up. How many parents?
Pre-K.
All right. Who did we miss?
Pre-K.
How many teachers of toddlers and pre-kindergarten teachers do we have? Okay.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Should have said that first. Okay, now we know what we're dealing with, Mrs. Norfolk. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage my dear wife, Sherry Norfolk.
Good morning. It is such an honor to be with you all today. What? I'm on now, right? Good. 1, 2. 1, 2.
1, 2.
I think it's on. Okay. Today in the morning we're going to be talking about how storytelling can help struggling readers. And for all of you who work with those very young children, how storytelling can actually help provide the building blocks of literacy. I've done a lot of reading about how children learn to read. I was a teacher and a librarian, so that matters to me. So I've read a lot of research and a lot of opinions about what helps children learn to read. And every book uses different terminology because that makes them special. But when you really boil it down, what you keep seeing is the same message over and over. There are really three things that are important to struggling readers and to children who are just beginning to form that foundation for reading. First, they need words and language. The more words and language they understand and can use, the better readers they will be. Second, they need to understand those squiggles, the little marks on the page. And third, they need to have a really broad knowledge of the world. Well, that sounds way too simple, doesn't it? I mean, those are very simple things to give. Unfortunately, many children don't really get those things. So we're going to talk about how storytelling can help form the foundation. Let's start with the squiggles. Storytelling obviously doesn't teach children to decode the squiggles on the page, and I am not going to claim that it does. I would love to be able to claim it, but it's not true. But what it does do is provide print motivation. It motivates children to learn how to decode those squiggles on the page. If children have never been exposed to the joy that story can bring, if they don't know how exciting it is to meet the characters inside books, if they don't have that experience, they have no reason to ever do the hard work of decoding those words on the page. But children who are surrounded by the spoken word and the written word, who see people reading all the time, and who hear stories, they are motivated to dive into books. When I was a librarian, I was assigned to a brand new library. It was a huge room that we had. The children's room was about the size of this room. We had 50,000 volumes in the children's collection. We had 6 full-time librarians. We had no kids. It was lonesome in that library. So we started doing all the things that we learned in library school about motivating kids to come to the library, because that's what the public library is really all about, motivating kids to read. So we did puppet shows, and we did skits, and we did flannelboards, and we did a bunch of other things that didn't work. And it was really depressing because we actually were serving 25 elementary schools, a gazillion preschools. There were 15 junior high schools and 10 high schools in our area. So we had children. They just weren't in the library. One day, I was sent home with the puppet show that I was supposed to turn up at the school with the next morning. And I switched cars and ended up at school with a bunch of computer programming materials and no puppet show. So my boss said, "You forgot the puppets? Tell the story." I said, "I don't know how to tell the story because I've never told the story because I use puppets, you know, because I don't." She said, "Tell the story." I said, "Okay." So I told the story. Now, it really wasn't a great job of telling the story because I really had never told that story. But 300 kids showed up at the library that day. And they said, We want that book. We want any book by the same author. We want any book about the same character. We want any book that's the same color. Just give us a book. And we said, whoa, storytelling worked. It motivated kids to come to the library. It motivated kids to read. So we stopped doing the rest of the stuff. We told stories. Storytelling motivates children to decode those squiggles. Storytelling motivates kids to open up those books. Bobby's going to give you an example of how story can be such a great motivator. He's going to tell us a story.
Okay, here is a story. Actually, this story comes from China. When Sherry and I made some of our very frequent visits to the 50th state of the United States, Hawaii, we have a librarian and storyteller friend there who is part Chinese and part Hawaiian. And her name is Nyla Ching Fuji'i. And so she helped to coach me on this particular story from China because I love the culture so much. I started performing in the martial arts back when I was around 15 years old. Have stayed with it ever since. But the story is not necessarily about the martial arts. It's about the human condition. No matter where we are on the planet, no matter what culture, no matter what religion, no matter what ethnicity, we are all the same. There's that thin veneer that separates one culture, one people from another. But inside, we all bleed red. Therefore, there's a higher power at work at all times, I feel, and this higher power has put the eternal battle in us between the darkness and the light, between good versus evil, which is the foundation of the told story. This story took place 500 years ago. It could have taken place yesterday. The story is about a young boy. His name is Han. Han. He ran into something very strange and mysterious where he lived in China. Let me digress. I need to ask the audience a question before I tell this story. How many of you know what a dragon looks like? Could I see your hands? I see 5 hands. So what's up with that? What's going on? How many know what a dragon is? Let me see your hands. Are we missing something in the translation here? The dragon. That mythical creature. The hands creep up now. Let me ask the question once again. How many know what a dragon looks like? Maybe we need more coffee this morning. This is not an abstract question, ladies and gentlemen. The dragon is in all cultures. Now, in the story, there are 2 morals to the story. One being, never judge a book by its cover. And the other moral being, beware of strangers that you entertain. You may be entertaining angels in disguise. The story is called Everyone Knows What a Dragon Looks Like. Oh, yeah? Let's find out. 500 years ago, there was this young boy. His name was Han. Now, Han lived in the city of Wu, W-U, Wu. It was a little town that sat in a valley. To the north was the wild horseman. To the south was the land of China. And Wu sat down there in the valley. Now, Han was the gate sweeper of the city of Wu. He had a big broom for sweeping the fronts of the gates of Wu. He was very poor. He was very poor. The only thing Han was paid for sweeping the gates of Wu, 1 bowl of rice, 1 pot of tea, That's all that he was paid, a bowl of rice and a pot of tea. But he was always happy and cheerful when he swept. And he always had a nice word to say to anyone that came in or left out of the gates of Wu. Good morning, grandmother. Good morning, grandfather. Good morning, uncle. But one day, as he was sweeping the gates of Wu, a messenger from another town came up behind him. Calm down. You're exciting the people. Take me to rule the city. Take me to rule the city right now. All right, I will take you to the ruler of the city. And so Han took this man to the ruler of the city of Wu. The ruler's name, J. Tiger. J. Tiger. He was Mandarin of the city of Wu. J. Tiger sat on his big, tall throne. He had a large golden crown that sat on his head. He wore a long mustache that hung down from his face. He had long 3-inch fingernails on every finger of his hand. He wore a diamond, a gold, or an emerald ring on every finger, and a long purple silk gown. The messenger said, Mandarin, Mandarin, the wild horsemen of the north are coming. They are 3 days' ride away. They mean to kill everybody in the city of Wu, bring war into the land of China. Whatever shall you do? The Mandarin stood up. We have a problem. Guards, guards, call my 4 counselors immediately. So the 4 counselors were called into the Mandarin's throne room. Now the 4 counselors were wisest of the wise men, chief of the army, head of the merchants, chief of the workers. When the 4 wisest of the wise men came, the Mandarin stood back up. We have a problem. The wild horsemen of the north are coming. They are 3 days' ride away. They mean to kill everybody in the city of Wu, bring war into the land of China. Wise old man, what shall we do? So the wisest of the wise men stood up, put on his glasses, stroked his beard. Yes, Mandarin, yes, Mandarin. There are 4 options we can consider. First, we can fight. Chief Wilmer said, what? Fight? Now, wait a minute, sir. My men know how to kick and scream and whirl and work their nunchucks. They know how to do all of that in the dojo, but they don't know how to fight. What? They have never been in combat. Sit down. Yes. Wise man, second option. Yes, Mandarin, we can surrender when the wild horsemen arrive. Somebody said, oh, if we surrender to the wild horsemen, they will cut off our heads and use them for souvenirs. Oh, most unpleasant thought. Sit down. Yes. Wise man, third option. Yes, Mandarin, we can run to the forbidden city. We can hide there. Somebody said, oh, if we run to the forbidden city, the emperor, he will cut off our heads for being cowards. Most unpleasant thought. Sit down. Yes, sir. Wise man, fourth option. Yes, Mandarin, we can then pray to the great cloud dragon to come and save us. Everybody said that's what we will do. We will pray to the great cloud dragon immediately, and that's what was done. And that day, the proclamation was given throughout the city of Wu, and everyone went and they beat the gongs at the temple gate. Boom, 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 boom. Everyone lit a prayer candle and lit sweet incense. And everyone prayed in the Buddhist fashion. Everyone went to sleep. The next morning, at about 6 a.m., Han was sweeping the fronts of the gates of Wu when a short, fat, bald old man showed up at the gate. He came up to Han. Good morning, young man. Han said, good morning, sir. I hope your honorable belly is full. Thank you. Quite quite so. Could you please take me to the ruler of your city? I would love to take you to the ruler of the city, sir, but we are expecting the wild horseman of the north any day now. He is praying to the great cloud dragon to come and save us. I know. That's why I am here. You see, I am a dragon. You what? You don't look like a dragon. Oh, really? How do you know? Have you ever seen a dragon in real life? Oops. No, sir. Please follow me, Mr. Dragon. So Han took the short, fat, bald old man into the Mandarin's castle. When they got upstairs, there was the Mandarin sitting down with his 4 consuls at breakfast. They had a big, huge breakfast of duck eggs, and they had all these other foods and rice, and they were sipping on their tea. The Mandarin said, Han, who is that? He says he is a dragon, sir. The Mandarin choked on his rice. He's a what? He's nothing but a short, fat, bald old man with big, dirty feet, tracking dust on my fine carpets. What do you want, beggar? Make it quick. Sir, if you want a dragon to save your city, I suggest first you talk to him nicely. Give me something to eat and something to drink. I will save the city. The Mandarin said, that's poppycock. You're nothing but a short, fat, bald old man. Everyone knows what a dragon looks like. I did a survey. A dragon wears diamond and gold and emerald rings. He wears purple silk. He must look like a Mandarin. Chief worker had a shovel. Sir, I beg to differ. I say a dragon knows how to work and most industrious. He must look like a worker. Chief merchant had a bag of gold. Jingle, 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 jingle. Oh, no. I say a dragon knows how to go to the bank every day. He must look like a merchant. The chief of the army said, what? A dragon knows how to kick and scream and yell and work his nunchucks. He must look like chief of the army. The wise old man said, you're all wrong. You're all wrong. I have read it in 44 books. I know it to be true. A dragon is wise. A dragon is smart. He must look like a wise man. Everybody started arguing as to what a dragon looked like. The next moment, the chief messenger rushed in. Mandarin, look outside the royal window. They ran to look. The wild horsemen were coming. They were 3 hours' ride away and riding very hard on their big shaggy horses. Everybody started to panic and run, but the man said, people, just talk to me nicely. Give me something to eat and something to drink. I will save the city. The Mandarin said, we have no time for you. You're nothing but a short, fat, bald old man. Get out of my sight. And at that, the Mandarin ran upstairs to the royal bedroom. Boogity, 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 boogity. Hid under the bed. Everybody ran and hid under their bed. Everybody ran away except Han and the old man. Han said, wait, they had, hello. Oh, goodbye. Sir? Han said, I don't know if you are a dragon or not, but if you are hungry and thirsty, please allow me to give you something to eat and something to drink. So Han took the old man into his little hut, gave him that one bowl of rice, that one pot of tea, which was all that he had to give. The old man took the bowl of rice and the chopsticks, and he ate. He drank down the tea. Oolong, good cup, huh? He set the cup and saucer down. He looked outside of Han's window. There were the wild horsemen coming from Mongolia, and there were hundreds of them riding on their horses. Yee-haw! They had their swords up in the air. You could now see the sun glistening from the steel of their upraised swords. The archery division, they started shooting arrows at the city as they got closer. And now you could see the skulls of their victims around their waists like big souvenirs. Han started to run and hide too. We better hide. Young man, hide. Calm down. Yes, sir. Exhale. We better hide. He said, no. We don't have to hide, young man. I don't care much for the people of Wu, but for your sake, son, I will save the city. He moved the boy to one side. The short, fat, bald old man walked outside with his long staff cane. He looked at the horse of horsemen. Yee-haw! He took that stick and waved it in the air 3 times. When he did, huge black thunderheads formed in the sky, and the thunderheads started lowering toward the ground. The wild horseman slowed up. Getting a little overcast out here. What's wrong with these clouds? I have no idea, my captain, where these clouds came from so suddenly. And then the old man raised one hand in the air like that. When he did like that, lightning came from his fingers, knocked men from their saddle. Boom! He did it again. Boom! He blew his breath out, and a tornado came from his mouth. The men went one way. The horse went up in the air, and he hit the ground. Let's get out of here! The old man gave him one more good shot. And don't come back. When the old man looked back at Han, he was, woo! Now, young man, I will show you what a dragon looks like, and no one else in this town. And the old man was a shapeshifter. He started changing his form. Boom, 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 boom. His snout jumped out like that. He opened up his mouth. There were white, sharp dragon teeth in his mouth. He had emerald green scales that covered his body. His eyes lit up red. Claws came out of his chest. Chicka-boom, 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 chicka-boom. His wings came out. His tail shot from behind. The dragon flew into the air as high as he could go. He curved around, waved at Han with one wing, and he flew off into the sunset. Han said, wow. Yes! He went back and told everybody what happened. They didn't believe him. Until they would dare to crawl from under their beds, they listened. Silence. They looked. The wild horsemen were gone. The only thing left, their weapons of war lying on the ground. They then made Han honorable defender of the city of Wu. They gave him a big house in which to live. They put furniture in his house. They bought him food in which to eat. And as Han was sitting on top of a big silken pillow, the Mandarin showed up with a sack of gold worth $1 million. Thai currency exchange. He flopped that down in front of the boy. Young man, I would like to give you this sack of gold for saving the city of Wu. And moreover, Han, I would like to thank you for teaching us all what a dragon looks like. We now know that a dragon looks like a short, fat, bald old man. Sherry will come up and she will dissect that story as one does a frog.
Maybe not. So, did you make pictures in your mind as you listened to the story? That's making meaning. And children have to visualize to see those pictures in their heads to make meaning of the squiggles on the page. Unless children can visualize and really imagine what's happening, they're not making meaning. So they're just decoding. They may be able to look at the words and figure out what the squiggles sound like, but they're not making meaning of them. So as they're listening to stories, they're practicing that very, very important skill of visualization. Studies tell us that nowadays children are losing the ability to visualize because they're sitting in front of computer screens and they're sitting in front of television and they're playing computer games, all of which give them all of the images. Their brains do not have to create the images for them. But when they read, to make meaning, they must visualize. Unfortunately, if they spent most of their life sitting in front of games and televisions and screens that give them the images, they can't do it. So we now have a new learning disability, which is the inability to visualize. But we can change that by telling stories. When children listen to stories being told, their brains have to go to work to make the pictures, to make meaning. So you were all using your brains just now to make meaning, to make those pictures while Bobby was telling the story. Studies tell us that children need to hear at least 1,000 stories before they start reading for themselves. One of the reasons is because they need to practice that visualization skill. So we're going to right now practice the visualization skill, making meaning of pictures. I'd like you all to look at the picture up here with the teddy bear and the 3 children, and just think about what's happening in that picture. What do you see? Who's telling the story? Is it the mother? Is it the teddy bear? Is it the children telling the story? What's happening behind the teddy bear? Can you see that? There are some people back there. All right. We're going to try a little exercise. In just a moment, I'm going to ask for some volunteers.
Dun, 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 dun.
And we have prizes for volunteers. Oh, boy. So here's what I'm going to ask them to do. We're going to ask 2 of the volunteers to start a story about what's happening before this event that's in the picture. We're going to ask 2 of the volunteers to tell us what's happening in the picture. And we're going to ask the other 2 volunteers to tell us what happened after the event in the picture. This is visual literacy. It's making sense of the symbols on the page. It's using words to tell a story. It's making meaning. So, who are our volunteers? We need 6. Don't everybody stomp up here at once.
Oh, my children.
Oh, we have a volunteer. We have another volunteer. Woohoo! We have another volunteer. That's 3. We need 3 more.
3 more. 3 more.
We have a 4th, we have a 5th, we have 1 more, we have 1 more. We have a 6th. Oh, please, welcome our volunteers.
Show them some love. Give them a round of applause. Takes much courage.
Wouldn't you like to come up on stage? Do they want to come on? They don't want to.
Please, yes.
Oh.
We insist. Please take the stage.
All right, let's see. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, good. Here's what we're going to do. The first 3 volunteers are going to tell us about what's happening before the image on the screen. So you'll start our story. You will continue it. Oops, you're going to start the story. Okay. You're going to start our story about what's happening, what happened before the picture. You will continue it, and you will continue it. Then you will start telling us about what's happening in the picture, and you will continue what's happening in the picture. You will start telling what happened after the image in the picture, and you will complete the story. A friend of mine does this with kindergartners, with 5-year-olds, so I know it works. So,
Formulate some
think
thoughts,
about
ladies.
the problem is that they don't know where to go until they hear where she starts.
Ah, the originator.
Yes.
The great beginning.
All right.
The first mover. Yes.
And you get your very own microphone. Okay, let's get out of the way so everyone can see our stars.
ขออนุญาตเป็นภาษาไทยนะคะคิดว่าเด็กพวกนี้ค่ะก่อนที่จะมานั่งเนี้ยอาจจะซุกซนอยู่ข้างนอกอาจจะไปเล่นเกมคอมพิวเตอร์หรือว่าอาจจะวิ่งเล่นนะคะคิดว่าจะไม่มีสมาธิอาจจะทะเลาะกันอยู่ก็ได้ก่อนที่จะเข้ามาค่ะ
ดิฉันคิดว่านะคะตอนแรกก็คือคุณแม่นี่อาจจะคิดว่าจะทำยังไงจะกระตุ้นให้เด็กเนี่ยมีจินตนาการกล้าแสดงออกกล้าเล่าเรื่องก็เลยชวนลูกว่ามานั่งตรงมาเล่านิทานให้พี่หมีฟังดีกว่าไหมก็เลยพาลูกเนี่ยมานั่งเด็กก็จะเล่าตามหนังสือนะคะก็เด็กก็จะจินตนาการว่าเขาเนี่ยกำลังเล่าให้ตุ๊กตาหมีฟังค่ะ
คิดว่าเด็กเนี่ยเด็กคนเนี้ยเขาดูภาพอยู่แล้วก็ไม่เข้าใจเขาก็ถามแม่เขาว่าเนี่ยอะไรเนี่ยคิดว่าเกิดอย่างเงี้ย
Dear Mr. Bobby and Miss Cherry, I think you have a question for me about in the future, what can the two children can be, all right? I think in the future, the two children became creative thinking children. They also have imagined about the storytelling because their mother telling about storytelling. So they have creative thinking and development about emotion quality. So I think about this in the future, what the children can be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm not so sure about that. I thought you want us to tell the story or what? You want us to tell the story from the first one until now, but I don't think it's a story. So I don't know what to carry on.
What's happening in the picture?
Just make it up something.
What's happening in the picture? What's happening in the picture?
All right. The happening in the picture, I can see. I think she's maybe she's a mother, and she likes to read a story, and I think she's very happy. And the children's not going anywhere, just want to listen. All right, just sit there and actually can focus them, with the story.
Good.
Yeah, that's all.
ค่ะก็หลังจากที่เด็กๆได้อ่านหนังสือนิทานพร้อมกับคุณแม่นะคะจากการที่เคยชอบเล่นเกมคอมพิวเตอร์หรือออกไปซุกซนข้างนอกที่นี่เด็กๆก็จะเกิดการรักการอ่านมากขึ้นแล้วก็จะเกิดการจินตนาการจากนิทานที่ได้อ่านว่าพี่หมีเป็นคนในครอบครัวแล้วก็เกิดจินตนาการที่จะแต่งเป็นเรื่องเป็นราวขึ้นมาเขาก็จะชอบอ่านมากขึ้นแล้วก็เกิดความคิดสร้างสรรค์มากขึ้นค่ะ
I don't know what to conclude, but from the beginning, maybe the sceneries, the mother and two daughters came to this maybe TK Park, and at first the daughter might want to play with computer games or look at the pictures only. But then the mother want to, why don't try telling story or reading some picture books together and tell the story to the teddy bear there and sit together and start reading. All of them look at picture and then the daughter might want to talk about the picture in the book and the mother read some or add more information or the daughters might imagine or talk about the picture. So they together they complete the story together and very happy about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. You may be seated. Where are our prizes for our wonderful volunteers?
Backstage.
Yeah.
Don't go far,
Don't
ladies.
go far. We have prizes for you.
Wonderful story being told in a combination of English and Thai.
Yeah.
We understood half of it.
All right. When children are asked to really visualize while they listen, according to the International Reading Association, if teachers explicitly instruct children to visualize as they listen or as they read, their comprehension skills will go up 3 times. They will triple. If that's the only thing that a teacher does, is to explicitly instruct children to visualize as they read and as they listen, their comprehension skills triple. So when we go to schools and tell stories, we're constantly saying to the children, make pictures in your head. What do the characters look like? What does the action look like? And to help them practice that skill, you can have them act out stories because that helps them visualize it. You can have them draw the pictures that they see in their imagination. You can have them do the kind of exercise that we just did, which is making meaning from pictures, because it goes both ways. Making meaning from pictures will help them make meaning with pictures in their imagination. So storytelling really, really improves that ability. Now, visualization is part of comprehension. So is predicting. And that's why we had you kind of predict what was happening next after the picture that you were looking at. Because it's not just reading the words on the page, it's also predicting what happens next. It's using the patterns in stories to understand what's happening and to predict what happens next. That's part of comprehension, and it's part of the ways that our brains work. It's one of the ways that we help children make meaning. I'm going to look at my notes because I need to make meaning out of the squiggles on my page right now. One of the things that helps children learn to make those pictures is to actually help them tell stories. I teach children from 4-year-olds on up to tell stories. Even children who can't read fluently can tell stories because they can use words fluently, they simply can't decode the squiggles. So I help them learn to use words and to make those pictures and to help other people see the pictures in their imagination. So I'm going to tell you a story that I teach little children to tell. And then I would like for you to tell the story to a partner. So pay attention, because you're going to be telling this story. The story I'm going to teach you is a story that I teach kindergarten, first and second grade. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and 7-year-olds. This story comes from the Cherokee people, Native Americans, and there are many versions. This is an old, old story, and this is a very simple version of the old, old story. It goes like this. In the beginning, there was darkness, darkness, darkness. The animals couldn't see where they were going, so they were always bumping into each other. Ow! Oh, get off my toe! Ouch! You stepped on my tail! Move it! Bear got tired of all that mess. He called a meeting of all the animals. He said, "We need light." The animals said, "Yeah, we need..." What's light? Bear said, the other day there was a big thunderstorm. I saw a crack in the sky on the other side of the world. Light came out. I figure somebody should go over there and get the light and bring it back and we can see. So, who will go? Who will get the light? Buzzard came forward. Buzzard was a big, strong bird with long, strong wings. Buzzard said, I'll go.
Let me. I'll go get the light for you.
Well, Buzzard was strong and he was fast, so they let him go. Buzzard flew across the sky till he came to the crack and he reached in and got a big hunk of light.
Uh-oh. I can't carry this and fly at the same time. And I have no pockets. Ooh, I know what to do. I know. I have lots of fluffy feathers on top of my head. So I'll put the light on the fluffy feathers and I can fly. Very smart.
So he put the light on the fluffy feathers of his head and he started flying back across the world.
I smell smoke.
The light burned right through the feathers on his head and he was bald. And the light had burned out. There was darkness, darkness, darkness. Who will go? Who will get the light? I'll go, said Possum. I'll go get the light for you. Now Possum looked like a great big rat with a long, fluffy tail. Possum was pretty smart, so they let her go. She started waddling across the world, but the closer she got to the light, the more it hurt her eyes. They got very pink and squinty, but she didn't stop. She kept going and got some light. I'm not going to be silly like that buzzard. I'm not going to put the light on my head. I'm going to put it on my nice furry tail. And she did. And she started back across the world when, ow! The light burned right through the hair on her tail, and her tail was naked. The light had burned out. There was darkness, darkness, darkness. Who will go? Who will get the light? I'll go, said Grandmother Spider. I'll go get the light for you. You can't do it. You're too little and too old and too forgetful. You won't remember the way back. Well, you might be right and you might be wrong, but I think you better let me try. So they let her try. She was old and little and forgetful, but smart. She had a plan. She began to weave a web from where the animals waited all the way across the world. And when she got to the other side, she scooped up some cold, wet mud. She took the light and put it in the mud to carry back. Then she followed her web back across the world. On the way, the light baked the mud till it was firm and solid. It became the very first bowl in the whole world, and the light was still safely inside. So she took the light and threw it up into the sky. Now, ever since that day, buzzards have had bald heads. Possums have had little pink squinty eyes and naked tails. Spiders have spun their webs in the shape of the sun. People have used bowls to carry things, and there has been light. And that's the end of that. Did you make pictures in your head as you listened? There's a pattern to the story. The pattern repeats itself. That helps our brains pay attention. So, let's review the story. In the beginning, there was darkness. Who got tired of it first? The bear. He called a meeting. Who went first? The bird, the buzzard. What did Buzzard do with the light? Show me. What happened to his head? Who went next? Who went next? Possum. Possum is actually a marsupial, like a kangaroo, but they look like great big, ugly rats. And they do nowadays have naked tails. What happened to possum's eyes on the way? They got pink and squinty. What did she do with the light? What happened to her tail? It was naked. Who went next? What did they tell Spider? Too little, too old. But she had a plan. So she spun a web across the world. She scooped up some mud, put the light in the mud. What happened to the mud on the way? It became a ball. And she took the light and she threw it into the sky. Ever since then, buzzards have had, possums have had, spiders have spun their webs in the shape of the sun. People have used balls to carry things, and there has been light. All right, we just reviewed the story with words and a little bit of visual. Now, we're going to review the story with no words, just hands. Hands up, please. Give yourselves a hand. Now tell the story to somebody next to you. Just turn to somebody next to you and tell the story. Now the thing about storytelling, there's no right or wrong way to tell a story. When you tell the story, it should be in your words, with your actions, your way. Just tell the story. I think you should give yourselves a round of applause. When children not only listen to stories, but tell stories, those words become active in their vocabulary. So a word like buzzard, which they may not know, a word like possum, they may not originally know. If they listen to it, it helps them to gain the vocabulary. But if they use it, and they use it over and over, it becomes part of their active vocabulary. Children, nobody can really read unless they have vocabulary. Vocabulary, words, are the building blocks of literacy. And when they're listening to story, children gain vocabulary. There are two really great ways to learn vocabulary. One is interactive conversation. That's the best. Children listening to their parents speak, hearing conversation, having parents talk to them, and the babies trying to talk back. That's the best way to learn language. The second best way is storytelling. That's not just according to me, it's according to the studies. And the reason is that when we tell stories, we don't just put the word in the middle of another string of words. We make meaning of the word with our face and our voice and our body. So if I said, the elephant was humongous, the child isn't going to have too much of an idea what that means if I just say, the elephant was humongous. It has something to do with elephant. It might mean little, it might mean hungry, it might mean fast, it might mean slow, it might mean old. But if I say the elephant was humongous, they got it. They know the meaning of the word. So storytelling, the way that we tell stories with our face and our voice and our body language helps make meaning. A few months ago, I was working with a group of kindergarten children, 5-year-olds. Among the 5-year-olds were 5 children who had special needs. One of them, Jeremy, had fetal alcohol syndrome. You're probably familiar with the effects of fetal alcohol syndrome. Children with fetal alcohol syndrome typically have very short attention spans, very few words, can't retain information, can't organize information, can't retrieve information. And so when I started working with this group of children, the teachers said, these 5 children, they probably won't get anything, but at least maybe they'll enjoy the stories. So I took that as a challenge. But I figured they'd get a lot more out of it than just enjoying the stories. My job was to not only tell them stories, but to teach them to tell stories in an effort to teach them beginning, middle, and end of story, cause and effect, characters, setting, problems, because they can get all of that from listening to and retelling stories. All of those, by the way, are things that help them. Those are literacy skills. So, I told them stories. Now, Jeremy, the child I was telling you about, spent the whole time I told the first story going, and I thought, is he paying attention or just... But I kept telling the story. Then I had the children retell the story. They did it as a group, and we're going to actually tell that story later this afternoon together. But they told the story. And Jeremy knew what to do. He did it at the right time, and he did the right thing at the right time. So obviously, he knew the story. He knew the sequence of the story. He comprehended it. Over a period of time, I taught them 15 stories. And the last story I taught them was one that each child was going to tell by himself. Up to that point, they were telling with the whole group, or they were acting it out with a partner, but this time they had to do it by themselves. And I taught them the story, and I put them in pairs to practice telling the story, and nobody sat with Jeremy. So I went over and said, Jeremy, do you want to tell me the story? And he said, and his teacher went, and don't get me wrong, she was a great teacher, and she cared about Jeremy. But she had been told by all the people who tested Jeremy that he could not learn. So she thought it was going to be too hard for him. But I figured even if he couldn't tell it to me, I could tell it to him again. So we were okay. So I sat down and I said, Jeremy, what happened? He said, once upon a time, there was an old man. He got seed. He dug, he planted, it grew. It grew. He said, time to pour, he pour, it won't come up. He got a woman, she pulled. He told the whole story. That story had a sequence of 7 characters, and he got them right. He didn't miss a single character, and he got them all in the right order. Jeremy was a child who learned through listening. He learned by listening to words, but nobody had been talking to Jeremy, so he wasn't learning. But he not only learned that story 5 days later, after he was supposed to have forgotten the story entirely, according to all of his teachers. He got up and told that story with extra details. And he told it in front of cameras. And he did it right. And he stood in front of everybody and he went. And then his teacher said, Jeremy's life has changed today because he wasn't supposed to be able to learn. But obviously he can learn. He can retain, and we'll have him retested. His entire educational path will now change because he was learning to retell stories. This is not something, it's not a miracle I did. It's a miracle that story does. Story, when we allow children to learn stories, to hear stories, and retell stories, they gain those very important literacy skills. Jeremy learned to use words. He learned to pattern those words. He learned to organize those words, retain those words, retrieve those words. Those are literacy skills, and Jeremy is farther along the path of literacy than anybody ever thought he would be able to be. Literacy is not just decoding words, it's making meaning.